You barely hit me.
Hey everyone, welcome to our video answering your assumptions about saving sex for marriage. Now before we start, I wanted to say that this video is not at all meant to be judgmental or condemning to anyone who has not made the decision to save sex for marriage in their own life. That's your decision to make. We just want to make this video talking about our journey in saving sex for marriage. We are Christians and that's what we believe the Bible calls us to do, and so we hope that this can be educational, interesting for anyone who is maybe going to save sex for marriage in their own lives, and you just want to know from some seasoned, I don't know,
No.
From some people
who did that. Cheers.
Cheers. So I asked you guys on Instagram to send in your assumptions about saving sex for marriage. So we got a lot of the same assumption, which was that it's super awkward the first time after you get married.
Oof.
Now, again, like, this is our experience. It's not going to be the same for everyone. Everyone's going to have a different experience. So
I wouldn't call it awkward.
I wouldn't either.
No, that's not the word I would use. I was sick, so
he had a sore throat the night of our wedding.
Yeah, I was not feeling great. Gosh, do you have a word for it?
Well, I would just say it wasn't awkward. I was nervous, but not because it was awkward. I think just because it was a big thing, right, you know, that we had really waited a long time for. So I was nervous, but I don't feel like I was awkward because I felt close to you. I feel like some people think that you can't be, you know, emotionally intimate with someone without being sexually intimate with someone. But I feel like you and I were both very emotionally connected already. And so it didn't feel like awkward, like, oh, we're doing this intimate thing, because we were already so connected emotionally. I guess it was awkward in the sense that we weren't familiar with what we were doing. Like, it's not like we were, you know, professional sex havers.
Sex havers?
Like, after you have a lot of practice, you know what you're doing. And so, like, we didn't really know.
Clueless.
I mean, we know how sex works. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, it just felt like the first time you go to In-N-Out. Oh god, it's maybe a bit. I just meant, like, it's not awkward because you're excited to, like, eat In-N-Out for the first time, but there's a learning curve. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's a learning curve when it comes to ordering.
Had to have been a better analogy.
Okay.
Oh, Krispy Kreme. Like, you don't go when the light's not on, you know. But most people wouldn't know that.
It's gotta be turned on to go for it.
I'm done. Count me out. Like you said, we didn't know what to expect. I don't know, like, we weren't thrown off, like, we weren't like, we weren't.
Some things come naturally, and some things don't.
Sure.
Alright.
I don't know.
This girl says she assumes that after waiting so long, psyching up for the first time actually makes sex feel anticlimactic.
No. I mean, it's tough because, there's a whole lot of hype that goes behind it. And so...
Does sex live up to the hype?
Is that the question?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, yes and no.
The first time, probably no. The second time, probably no. Third time, no. Fourth time,
no.
Fifth time,
No.
Sixth time,
No.
maybe by like the 30th time.
I don't remember the 30th time. Yeah, I would say there's a whole lot of hype behind it. So obviously going to that first night, like you've got that hanging over your head, and that can make expectations a little skewed, I guess. And yeah, I mean, it's not gonna, if it is indeed your first time, it's probably not gonna be like what you see in the movies. But yeah, I mean, I think you get to the point where it does start living up to the hype. You just got to keep working at it, for lack of a better word.
And I would say, even if the actual sex is not living up to the hype, there's still, it's not like, I wasn't disappointed that we weren't pros at sex. Like, I was still, like, hyped up to be sleeping next to you. That was exciting to me, just being able to take that next step of intimacy. Not even necessarily just the sex, but just like being more open and vulnerable and naked with you was fun.
Sorry, parents.
I think they get it. I mean, they had to do this to produce us, so.
Fair.
The first time is overwhelming and somewhat scary.
That's a good way to put it.
It was a little scary, overwhelming.
Yeah.
Especially knowing that, like, your friends and family all know what you're doing. Excuse me?
Here's the thing. Your wedding night is not just about, like, sex. I mean, it is, but, like, you also just got married. So, like, your emotions are all over the place, probably. You just had an entire day, just, like, ceremony and just, like, people loving on you. And then, you know, it's just there's a lot that's going on. So
that in itself is overwhelming.
Everything, yeah, right there, it's overwhelming. And so then you have to go into this next step that is huge. And so, like, yeah, it's going to be overwhelming. You know, that's honestly probably why I was sick, was just I was overwhelmed. Like, my body was just like, you're done. You know, we're breaking down here. Yeah, you're going to be overwhelmed. You know, and I think that takes part in the fact that, you know, it takes a few days of intimacy before, like, it actually seems to be going well. Because, yeah, I think even the first few days of marriage are, like, kind of jarring. It's like, oh, wow, we're married. You know, like, and everything's different. Like you said, we're sleeping in the same bed, and, you know, we're just, it's marriage. It's just like, it's the first few days of marriage is gonna be overwhelming without the sex.
But I would still say it's still fun. Like, it's more fun and exciting than overwhelming and scary. Okay. What's your body count?
1.
Me. Okay. This girl says, I'm saving sex for marriage, but I've never been in a position where I've really been tempted, and she thinks it could be hard.
Like when there's temptation?
Yeah. She's afraid that it's going to be too difficult.
Yeah. It's going to be. Oh, not too difficult.
Well,
I think it's too difficult. It's going to be difficult. I think we were both in the same place where we had never been in that situation either.
It's true.
Prior to dating, so it's like, it's not like, it's really easy to say until you actually get to a point where, like, it could possibly happen, and that's going to be the crucial moment or moments. It's really difficult, but I think you just have to keep boundaries, stick with them, know when you're falling beyond those boundaries, because it may happen. If it happens once, and hopefully it doesn't go anywhere, but if it, you know, if it doesn't, don't let that be the new boundary. In a sense, got to keep going back to the old boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
What got you that far? So
that's the key. If you are wanting to save sex for marriage and you're afraid that the temptation is just going to be too hard, you both have to be dedicated to this decision, because it's not going to work out if you're not both dedicated.
If it's just one of you, you're in bad shape.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
You need 2 people.
And you both have to, you can't wait, this is the other thing, you can't wait for the other person to stop you guys. If you're getting physical, that's something I noticed, was that I felt like, well, if we should stop, then he should be the one to stop us. And then I realized, no, I should be the one if he's not going to do it. And then there were times when you were stronger than me and you would say, okay, we got to stop. and we got to pull back, on our boundaries a little bit. And so I think that's key, is not being afraid to step away and cool off a little bit. This girl says, I know people assume it means that affection doesn't exist between you two.
Wait, what?
I think she means, like, people assume that if we're not having sex, then we're not affectionate at all towards each other.
And I think there are times where people have to take it that far, kind of, in order to be successful when they're dating.
Because there's so much attraction and so much of a draw that you have to cut off.
Yeah, I mean,
affection.
If you feel like just holding hands will lead to a bad road, then you have to have the mindset that we can't hold hands, unfortunately. That wasn't really for us, but I think some people do feel that way, and you have to respect the other person if that is how they feel, because if you're both dedicated to this, and one person is saying that they're fearing that they may fall into temptation just by holding your hand, that's something you have to kind of honor, because you're in it together. This isn't, you don't want to be upset about that person, because if that's the truth, then that's something you need to respect. Of course, if that just means like they don't actually like you, then you probably should get out of that relationship. But if they generally like you and everything like that, and it's truly just them wanting to avoid temptation, then you need to respect that.
Yeah. I felt so much respect for Trevor for wanting to get to know me and for loving me outside of anything I could do for him physically. It was so nice to have that whole season before getting married where I was able to know that he loves me for me and not just for what I could do for him with my body. This girl goes, my mom always told me it's harder for guys to wait.
Okay. How are we supposed to compare?
I don't know how we're supposed to compare. I read a book recently that said 1/4 of women actually have a higher sex drive than their husbands. So I think that might relate. Maybe 1/4 of women actually have a harder time than guys. I think that one's really, like, it just depends on the person. It was tough for me. It was very difficult. You're just so cute! The final assumption is that since we have both always saved sex for when we're married, the assumption is that it's difficult then to be intimate and specifically to initiate once we are married.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you have to, yeah, I mean, I think it is a little hard at first. But it's just an adjustment again. Like, it's not going to affect you for the rest of your life. It's just an adjustment period,
Right. And it's a healthy adjustment.
Yeah, it may be shorter for some people, maybe longer for some people.
I will say, I think this is very important to talk about because I think that some people have the experience where, especially in religious communities, where they are not really taught the beauty of sex. They're just taught how it's sinful to do it outside of marriage. Whereas I believe my parents did a really good job of teaching me that sex is a really beautiful gift, and that's why they taught me that it's beautiful to save it for marriage, because it's so special to be able to share that with one person in a relationship where that person is committed to you in such a serious way, which has been my experience. I'm so glad that I've never ever regretted saving sex for marriage. Even if there was that adjustment period at the beginning, I feel like it has blessed my life so greatly. And do you feel the same?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it saved us from a lot of drama and other issues.
And just heartbreak. Because it's never fun. I mean, I know girls who have given, all of themselves to someone, and then it's just so painful to, if that doesn't work out with that person, it's really painful. And so, I don't know, I'm just thankful that I didn't have to go through something like that. But it was difficult. It was hard to save that. And so, anyways, that's just been my experience. But I think that a lot of people have a harder time transitioning from no sex to yes sex.
Yeah, because they've only heard negative things about it until all of a
Because-
sudden now it's a good thing,
Yeah.
positive thing.
And they feel guilty for it because they weren't taught that it's a beautiful thing. They were just taught sex bad, you know? And that's just not true. I think that it's important that we are thinking about sex in the sense that it's a beautiful gift. And that makes it way easier to save it for marriage because you understand why you're saving it. And I think it makes the transition a lot easier because you're finally, you know, able to open that beautiful gift. Well,
this has been Sex Talk with Trevor and Maddie. Join us next time when Larry sings a silly song.
I hope
Without
this...
further ado,
Okay.
silly songs with Larry.
I hope this was helpful to you guys. If you guys have any more questions or thoughts, you can comment them below. Please, please be respectful of our decision to save sex for marriage. We feel like it was the best decision for us, and I hope that you guys are able to just make a decision that works for you and that you feel is honoring to yourself. And if you're a Christian, I hope that you make decisions to honor God. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see ya in the next video.